we're 7 days away from the election, probably one of the most important elections of our lifetime. We seem to keep saying that every 4 years, but I really feel it in my bones. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Eric Planey.
Hello, I'm Lucas Finko.
And tonight, as our special guest, we have all the way from the other coast, the fantastic sunny Californian coast, we have Audrey Lee. And together, the three of us are the Pirates of Clean Tech. Yar!
Yar!
Yar! I was going to have Halloween hats, pirate hats, but
yeah.
Well, so
I need to go grab my bandana and my eye patch.
Audrey will get one to you, and then you just have to come back on when the pirate hat arrives.
Awesome.
I found mine, so I should be good.
I think that's just a rolled up mask, it looks like.
I can't see. I have no depth perception though.
I don't think Fauci would approve of that. Well, Audrey, thank you so much for being on here. I mean, your timing of being on the show is absolutely impeccable. We're going to go right into it. So please tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing now, and what organizations you're affiliated with, and we can have a conversation from there.
Sounds good. I am happily unemployed. I have been devoting a lot of time to clean energy for Biden, and I hope we'll get into that a little bit more. But I'm a co-chair and on the grassroots growth team of Clean Energy for Biden, which we founded in April, so just 6 months ago. I'm also on the board of a special purpose acquisition company called ArcLight Clean Transition Company. So we are looking to help a company go public in the clean energy and sustainability space. I'm also on the board of a nonprofit called GridWorks that facilitates discussions between stakeholders to think about long-term decarbonization and planning for the electricity grid. But most of my career has been spent in rooftop solar, energy storage and batteries, and the electricity public policy side. So was at Sunrun for a few years, Advanced Microgrid Solutions, the California Public Utilities Commission, as well as the Department of Energy in DC. So really happy to be here. Thank you.
No, it's great to have you. And you're wearing a lot of hats right now. And those are our favorite types of guests because our conversation tends to go in many different directions. But let me kick off by this statement, and we can go into a question. But we call ourselves pirates, but really, I think this week we were fortune tellers because our guest last Tuesday was Carolyn Kissane from NYU, who has a great expertise on geopolitics and oil and gas. And we really talked about the migration of the oil and gas industry around the whole world, not just the United States, into renewable energy. And she cited some examples of companies with name changes to sound more eco-friendly, et cetera. And then, of course, we had the presidential debate this past Thursday, and there's been a bunch of back and forth since then where the Trump administration and the Trump White House is trying to point Biden as wanting to kill the oil and gas industry. But that's a little bit of maybe not exactly posturing it correctly or probably misinterpreting Vice President Biden's words. So I think with you being here, we'd love to hear your comments on what exactly does the Biden policy refer to with regards to oil and gas, and then we can go from there into his renewable energy policy.
Yeah, I mean, I love during the debate how much time he spent on clean energy and his remarks there. I read this interesting article by Dan Pfeiffer, and I think you can share the link. But according to the Washington Post, what Biden actually said is that, quote, because the oil industry pollutes significantly, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, and I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. So it's not like Biden can turn off the oil industry overnight. I think he's been very clear in his position that he would stop giving federal subsidies to the oil industry, and that's a position that a lot of people support. I think the Data for Progress poll found that 55% of voters support ending government subsidies for the fossil fuel industry, and only 26% opposed. So this is, I don't think Biden messed up in any way when he said this. I think he's just been very clear on his position there.
So I want to know where those other 20% of voters are because, firstly, I think most people I talk to don't believe that the industry should be receiving federal subsidies. They could be easily standing on their own 2 feet right now.
Yeah, exactly. I see that you put up kind of the distribution, and so this is a really telling graph. You know, the split between Democrats and Republicans and independents, and then urban, suburban, and rural. And I think it points to this larger issue that, you know, the vast majority of people do believe in climate change is real, that it is caused by human activity, and it's really long past time that we did something about it. And I love how this article points out that, you know, Biden, I think, was, and of course I don't speak for the Biden campaign, I don't work on the Biden campaign, but for me as just one person in the audience, it seems like Biden has been very deliberate about his platform on climate, because it's good politics. It's where the majority of Americans are on politics today.
Yeah, and it really strikes me here too how it's a bipartisan issue. Like even among Republicans, was this 21, 53% Republicans are not supportive of the oil industry, and they're supportive of a transition away. So this is not a partisan issue. Everyone in the country supports this, no matter what party you're in, no matter if you're urban or rural. Yeah, it just seems to be, like you said, the majority opinion.
And if you scroll down a little bit, I love this quote. According to Eric Holthaus, Texas now employs more people in the renewable industry than oil and gas. Renewable energy is 250,000 jobs in Texas versus oil and gas, which is only 162,000 jobs. And so just and I've been working in clean energy for 18 years. I started at the Department of Energy when Bush was president. And so this narrative of climate change that is very old, it's very exciting to see that it's outdated, that the country really has moved.
It's funny because I've said this on this podcast a few times, but if you go to Houston does not call itself the oil and gas capital of the world anymore. They call themselves the energy capital of the world, right? Because they want to attract all the renewable companies that can, set up shingles in office buildings throughout Houston. They want to be the intellectual capital, the engineering capital. So it's great to hear that statistic about Texas, because Texas usually is a quote red state, but they've been embracing renewable energy for quite some time now, especially wind and solar.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really exciting for me, having been in clean energy for so long, is to see young people engaged and voting. And I think it's the young voter is such an important demographic in this election. Wrapping up what we saw in this article is that I think the Biden campaign understands that they're talking to young voters when they're being very progressive, having a very progressive stance on climate policy. I've been doing some work. I actually just spoke a couple weeks ago at Princeton University, and they have a big divestment campaign. So it's really exciting to see young voters get involved, and kind of it makes total sense. It's their future to see them get involved. And I hope that that we can really mobilize young voters in this election, because they're just so important for this.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about how did clean energy for Biden come into formation? Because you're not technically a part of the Biden campaign, as you mentioned. So what was the genesis for it? And you have some great co-chairs and some great committee members I've seen on your website. How did everyone pull together so quickly in just a few months' time?
Yeah, it's been quite a fun rkind. I think a handful of us got together in April, just before Earth Day. I think around that time, it kind of became clear that Biden would be the Democratic nominee. So we got together, and we're a little bit surprised that the clean energy community had not really organized in a big way yet. And so we said, since no one else has stepped up, let's do this. And so we organized that first event on Earth Day. We got Vice President Biden to talk at that event. And since then, for the past 6 months, we've grown to over 10,000 members. We've raised $3 million for the campaign. So we're not a political action committee. We're not really an entity, except a network of volunteers that have gotten together. So everything we raise just goes straight to the Biden campaign. We, of course, talk with them and coordinate with them, but we're not associated officially with the campaign in any way. And it's been remarkable to see the clean energy industry come together. I think what I've really loved about it is I think we've built a pretty unique type of volunteer organization, especially during COVID. I think we do all of our organizing over Slack, and Google Drive and Zoom calls. And it's not just about, asking for money or giving money. And it's not just about, more mundane volunteer tasks. It's really putting professionals and their capabilities towards this effort. So we're able to, we have 10,000 members, but I think I'm most proud of the fact that we have hundreds of active volunteers. You look at our Slack activity, we have like 400 to 500 weekly active Slack users. So these are people that are really engaged. We have over 30 different teams across the country. So the ability to organize locally and tap into local networks, especially local battlegrounds, especially battleground states. And so I just came out of a job in corporate and from a corporate company. And so just seeing the parallels in creating the infrastructure and the resources to get local teams go faster. So we have centralized operations and a CRM and website team and communications and graphic design. And the goal of the central structure is just to create all these resources so that the local teams can go as fast as they can, because they're the ones on the ground talking to people in those swing states. So I think that's been really fun for me to see this organization grow like that.
Lucas, what do you, any questions from you?
Cool, yeah. So I'm hoping I can sneak one in about California regulation. I know you used to be super plugged into that. What's hot in California right now? Where's California headed? We've seen some crazy stuff come out already. So your ideas on that?
I highly recommend that you come to our Thursday capstone rally, 7 p.m. Eastern. We've organized sort of this 5 days before the election, this rally, but we're going to have Governor Newsom speak at this rally, so you can hear directly from him what's kind of going on with California. But I think it's an interesting time in California. I'm very excited about Newsom's announcement about electric vehicle sales, 100% light-duty electric vehicle sales by 2035. And then I think it's also interesting, just you're seeing very progressive clean energy and climate policy, but also the impacts of climate change with wildfires and public safety power shutoffs. So I'm not in a place of government right now, but I think it's definitely some big problems, and I'm literally looking forward to that collaboration between the state and the federal government again. I was at the Department of Energy for several years. I left in 2011, 9 years ago, because it was so hard on the federal level. It was so hard to convince the country back then to do something about climate change, and California seemed like this safe haven where you didn't have to convince people back then that climate change was happening and California was already moving. And so I think it's going to be really exciting to see federal government take an active role again on climate change, and then work with states like California, but other states too who have come up very far in terms of clean energy policy. Illinois, Virginia, all throughout. So I think we're definitely much further than we were 9 years ago. Thank goodness, because we certainly have to move quickly.
Yes, you do.
The one thing I've really liked about Biden's Vice President Biden's policy is that I think people are getting it because he really made an emphasis on combining renewable energy development and economic development. And some of the numbers that I think you have on your website are just staggering. And I think several investment banks have come out and actually said that Biden's economic plan could be better for the US economy in the short run and long term than President Trump's plan. And President Trump sometimes gets touted for knowing more about the economy than Vice President Biden. So maybe just as a wrap up, talk a little bit about Biden's numbers in terms of dollars that he wants to spend, where do they want to go, and how that could impact the everyday citizen who's maybe undecided right now about what president will actually be better for them, for their financial well-being and for their family. Yeah,
definitely. I think I'm very impressed, having worked on this area, with how progressive Biden is on climate change. He's committed to 100% clean energy economy and net zero emissions no later than 2050. And then he's also committed to a carbon pollution-free power sector by 2035. And so that's going to be very challenging. But as you said, that's going to be an important accelerator for jobs growth, especially in this transition. We started out the discussion about we need to transition from a fossil fuel economy to a clean energy one. and all the jobs that's going to create. Biden is committed to $2 trillion in investment. I think what's really, and it's not spoken about a lot, but Biden has committed that disadvantaged communities will receive 40% of the overall benefits. So really pointing out, this isn't about creating centralized clean energy infrastructure. It's about creating infrastructure that affects people's daily lives in terms of appliance and building efficiency standards, more efficient homes and retrofitting buildings. These are things that people interact with day to day, instead of the larger infrastructure projects that may be a little bit more removed. And so really thinking about how does this affect people who, a lot of people are, looking at the economy and unemployment and out of jobs. How will this impact them? And I think he's really made that real for voters.
Yeah, I think this year, for all the negatives, if there is such a thing as a positive in this COVID economy, there's been a light shined on that kind of the Venn diagram between clean energy, health and safety of people, and kind of disadvantaged economies in urban environments, for example. There is a correlation there. So it seems like the more green energy we can put directly into the hands of citizens in disadvantaged parts of cities, the better it is in the long run for their personal health, which is something now that people are also resonating with, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's also, what I love about the Biden platform also is this, I don't know what other word to say, but decency, that Biden has committed to not accepting contributions from oil, gas, and coal corporations, because that's the reality of politics and how politics has worked. And just the sense of putting Americans first and putting our economic and health and climate as a priority in place first.
Audrey, talk to us a little bit. It's 1 week, we're taping, 1 week before the election. A lot of people have already voted, but people can still contribute to the cause in different ways, I assume. How would someone who's watching and listening right now be able to step up and be a part of your team?
Yes, definitely. So the easiest place, go to our website, Clean Energy for Biden. We have voter outreach events there. I don't know, do you want me to pull it up or you guys got it? We have phone banking any day of the week, anytime that you can make it. So I'm phone banking tonight in an hour as an example. I'd never done it before. It is thrilling talking to complete strangers and not knowing whether you're going to get hung up on or someone who's going to say thank you, or you're going to help someone figure out where their polling place is and encourage them to vote. It's very rewarding. The other really effective thing that people can do is text your friends and family. So even more effective than speaking to strangers is texting people your friends and family and colleague who trust you. There is a great, if you click on Project 2 Degrees, yes, there is a great app that the Biden campaign has called Vote Joe. And so you just download it to your phone. It looks at all of your contacts in your address book and compares it to the voter polls. So it doesn't share any of your address book with the campaign. It stays all on your phone. But then you can look and see in your phone book who didn't vote in the last election, who's in a battleground state, and you can text them, and that is a very compelling way to get people to vote. And when I texted people, people asked, "Oh, how can I do this too? How can I volunteer? I've been meaning to check on this. Thank you for reminding me," is kind of a lot of the feedback that I got. So it can be very effective. And as I said, we have a capstone rally this Thursday. The great lineup. I think that's on our homepage. A great lineup of speakers, including, there you go, Governor Newsom, Inslee, Governor Inslee, Governor Whitmer, and Governor John Grisham, and Speaker Pelosi. So I hope you can join that as well. And just, ping me, sign up to become a member and get more information. And I'm happy to point you in the direction to help.
Really happy you're having.
Thank you so much.
Really happy you're having Governor Inslee. He was kind of a lone wolf a little bit. He was the one that was most vocal when no one else was about clean energy. So a great lineup.
Yeah, and you showed the co-chairs. We've got Maggie Thomas as one of our co-chairs who was on the Inslee campaign and then on the Warren campaign, and has started the Evergreen Action, which is kind of furthering Inslee's climate policies and his platform. So really important campaign that he ran, even though he didn't become the nominee.
Fantastic. So give us some websites and maybe any other social media accounts you want to name, and then we'll wrap it up.
Great. Yeah. Cleanenergyforbiden.com. It's all there.
Here's your Twitter and your LinkedIn, Facebook.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
Well, Audrey, this was fantastic. Thank you for being, you're so busy this week, I'm sure. To take a few minutes out to talk to our guests is fantastic. I know you have a lot of East Coast history yourself. So, welcome back virtually. And it's been wonderful to have you. And thanks for opening the door for us to hear a little bit about what's going on in California as well, because the more we could bridge information and ideas, the better it is for all 50 states.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you guys for doing the show. This is great.
Awesome. Thanks, Audrey.
Thanks, Audrey.
And we are back. Audrey had to go work the phone banks, which I feel like we should do a little David Letterman thing, pick up a phone and just crank her right now, prank call her.
I don't know. We should, or maybe we should work the phone banks from the show. That's what we should do.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Let's do it.
Like, hello, you're on the Pirates of Clean Tech right now.
How could we help?
We'd like to get you to vote for Clean Tech.
So normally we do our alcohol introduction at the beginning of the show, but a representative of a political campaign, even though not directly affiliated, we thought we were going to hold off. Yeah. So I'm really proud because just a few miles away from us near New Paltz, we stopped at the Kettleboro Cider House, drinking incredible dry cider. They had a hoppy cider as well, which I didn't really like as much, but this is fantastic. So check out Kettleboro Dry Cider. Perfect.
Wow. I'm upset because Sam Adams Oktoberfest is no longer in the store, but in its place is the Winter Lager, which is also excellent. So it'll do.
I think these breweries right now are just cranking it out, and people are consuming at home. So
I know. I heard they're having a hard time getting supplies and keeping up with demand. So
I think I told you the story one time. I went to Great Lakes I went to Cleveland for a business meeting, and it happened to be the night of the launch of the Great Lakes Brewery Christmas Ale, and they have this massive party. So we're drinking all night. And the next morning, I get up in this swanky hotel in downtown Cleveland, and I go to the treadmill and I start running. And as I start sweating, I could smell peppermint in my sweat. And it wasn't good peppermint either. It was, I don't know if I want to repeat that ever again.
I think everybody has a peppermint story that's doesn't have a fun end.
To our listeners out there, if you have a dirty peppermint story, feel free to write us. We'll read your letters confidentially.
Well, no, we'll probably edit all this out.
Oh, we're not going to edit this out. Come on. Anyways,
all right,
we don't actually have that many stories this week, so we can go through them pretty quickly. I actually had 4, but as I was rereading one today, I realized it was a paid advertisement. So you're not getting me paid advertisement.
I was wondering why you had an article about computer systems. Like, what is this?
Oh, it was about water. It was about, really focusing on
not really
technology for water. It just kept talking about one particular technology.
I tell you what, I'm going to go first, though, because
go
of the
first.
Water incident. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, go first.
Okay, so here we go. This is from the Bennington Banner. This is Montpelier. That's Vermont. No? Isn't that the capital of Vermont? I think so.
It is. I love the name Bennington Banner.
Yeah, this is by Greg Sukanik from the Brattleboro Reformer. This is October 14th. I'm still a little behind. The news has been kind of slow this week, so I'm still getting caught up from 2 weeks ago. Regional governors call for power grid reform. So this is very interesting. Governor Phil Scott, which I'm assuming is from Vermont, and 4 other New England governors on Wednesday announced their support for reforming the region's electricity market. This is very interesting. The governors basically getting together and making a statement or a letter to the ISO Northeast saying, we have state goals for renewable energy, but the electricity markets are not coming with us. And they're kind of standing in the way, and that they need to they need to get their act together so we can reach our goals. So this is very interesting. I love, so the governor's statement calls for reform of the regional electricity market. That's the ISO Northeast, including transmission, planning, governance. And then they had one little comment from the ISO Northeast at the bottom saying, yes, we've received their statement.
Jeez. Don't call us governors. We're busy.
So yeah, I mean, that says everything about what they're talking about, right? That's exactly the problem they're outlining. So yeah, I thought this was really interesting. So I'd really like to see a nut get cracked here. I don't know if you guys know, but the utility in Connecticut had the worst record from Sandy. The executives were fired because they were basically like, we don't need to prepare for Sandy. It's never happened before in 100 years. Well, yeah, it was a once 100-year storm. It happens once every 100 years.
Guess what? 100 years is up. It's time.
So that's kind of the attitude they have over there. Like, whatever.
So it's a great story. Two things came to mind. One is you almost have to wonder if this is a little bit of a result of the governors working together on a COVID policy, right? Which they had to work together more this year. And then I think this is a natural segue into talking to their ISO, to ISO New England, about being more transparent, about being more effective, about getting the grid ready for more types of renewable transmission or transmission from renewable sources. It doesn't talk about teeth, though. We need some teeth here in the Bennington banner. And they need to talk about mechanisms in which the governors can apply real pressure to the ISO New England. And then from there, I think we'll start seeing some business. But you're absolutely right. That little tiny paragraph on the bottom that, yeah, we heard you. Please leave us alone. We got things to do. That's not going to fly anymore. People are empowered. All the numbers we just talked about, it's all bipartisan that wants to focus on clean energy. So every governor, no matter what your political party is going to be leaning on transmission and interstate transmission to get it done right.
Yeah. So I think, as a governor, I'd be wondering too, like, hey, I see the WPP merging with CAISO because they're doing a good job. I see PJM and NISO fighting with the FERC over how to get DERs in. What is ISO New England doing? Nobody knows. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a good story. Thank you, Bennington.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. This was interesting. This is from Forbes. Usually you have the Forbes articles. U.S. utility companies rush to declare net zero targets. This is from Scott Carpenter. He's the energy writer for Forbes, October 15th.
Yeah, he's good.
Talking about how all the utility companies now are rushing to set net zero emission targets by or before 2050, 50. They're saying it's so ubiquitous now that threats to make any utilities without net zero targets look odd. So Duke became the latest, which Duke is one of the largest emitters among the utilities. So that's interesting. I actually wanted to take a little issue with this, especially with this word net. So I feel like net zero is kind of an early transition tool that we've been using, right? So a company says, oh, I can be net zero rather easily because I don't have to change my emissions. I can buy credits that offset my emissions, and on net, in accounting, on paper, I have zero emissions. Now, this is great early on to encourage like solar developers because they can sell those credits and then they can make money developing solar. But when everybody becomes net zero, where are they going to buy the credits from? Because everybody else is buying credits. Everybody can't go around looking for credits at the same time. So I take a lot of issue with this net zero target. So we're done with net zero. We're past early transition. We're in the middle transition now. We need to see some more aggressive policies. Okay, net zero is not going to do it anymore. Does it? And I could get into a whole bigger argument about how we draw boundaries and things like that. Like, I would rather companies say, hey, of the things that are in my building, that I control, that are in my process, in my company, we commit to removing emissions or being carbon net zero. And that to me will go a heck of a lot further, because if all companies do that and don't worry about external emissions, if all companies just reduce their internal emissions to zero, then we won't have any emissions. So, you know, I'd like to see this word net slowly fade away.
First off, when you said looking for credits in all the wrong places, it just reminds me of the song. Remember, looking for love in all the wrong places?
Yes, yes.
We're looking for credits in all the
Story of my life.
wrong places. So, you're a happy family man, Lucas. Come on. I like this story. I love your point just now, because it's like they're looking for, I was thinking they're looking for offsets, but they should be looking for set-offs, things that they can control themselves, things that they can tangibly show. That actually goes well into my ESG story that I'm going to talk about. You know, no more fluff. There's no more marketing. It's time to get real about this, and we got till 2050 to get this done right. So give us tangible results, give us tangible mechanisms, and I 100% agree. Let's get rid of the net number in net zero. So Scott Carpenter does a great job. He really covers a lot. It's a good story. It's thought-provoking, but we got to get rid of nets.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think we beat that like a dead horse. Moving on. This is great. This is from Engadget. This is Andrew Tarantola from October 14th again, which must have been a great day for Clean Energy News. Facebook deploys its AI to find green energy storage solutions. So this was extremely interesting to me on 3 different fronts. I'm a big AI practitioner myself, as some of you know. I'm also a trained physicist. I was educated as a physicist, so I love talking about DFT. And it's clean energy, which is something I'm also extremely committed to. So very interesting. So what the article says is when they're looking for, I think they talk about catalysts for electrolysis to make hydrogen, the physics equations are extremely difficult, and they use density functional theory, which is statistical mechanics. It's part of physics. And you're trying to calculate kind of the distribution of electrons in a substance or in a catalyst or in an electrolyzer. So it turns out to be very difficult. Billions of permutations need to be brute forced according to the theory. And so they're trying to figure out a better way to do this. So they took a large data set of known catalysts with known properties, and then they put it in a giant data set, and they're going to apply machine learning algorithms to it to try and see if they can find out optimal combinations and optimal catalysts without having to solve the fundamental physics equations, which are very difficult to do. So really cool. I had to talk about this article because I just love it to death. I'd love to see this go somewhere. They're going to have a Facebook challenge in the future, so keep an eye out for that. And I don't know, maybe we'll do something with that. That should be fun.
Great, because you know what? When I hear Facebook and AI in the same sentence, I think of Skynet. They're coming after you, folks. They're coming after you. They're disguising it green, and it's going to be ugly for all of us. So we're going to have chips in our head telling us where the energy storage is located. Jokes aside, you know, look, I'll say it again. I've said it 100 times every time you bring up an AI story. I get it. I understand it. I appreciate it. If it helps us get to our climate targets faster and with less waste of resource, I'm 100% behind it. But my God, there better be oversight and there better be controls. And Facebook, in my opinion, does not have a reputation for oversight and controls.
Well, it has a reputation.
I stand corrected. I'm looking at the dirt under my tennis shoe right now, and that's where Facebook's reputation is. Look, you know, seriously, I know Facebook's trying to do the right thing here. Please, just let's make sure we watch them and watch them like a hawk. Guys like you, Lucas, who understand clean energy, understand responsibility and AI, have to watch these guys to make sure that we're doing it correctly. Because there are serious ramifications that we joke about, but they are true.
Well, I've been trying to work towards AI practitioner's ethic. I think there are some simple steps any AI practitioner can take to prevent the emergence of Skynet. And I think it's not that hard. It'd be easy to write down. We just gotta, I'm trying to find a partner that will stand in and offer it. You know, I talked to the New York Academy of Sciences about it, and you know, I'm waiting for their call back. So if somebody wants to do that, if Elon Musk wants to head it up, I know he's talked about Skynet before. So somebody's got to get, you know, some kind of practitioners, you know, like the Hippocratic Oath for doctors, right? It should be that simple, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you for saying that. I'm a little bit mixed on oath myself. My graduate school, Thunderbird, came up with kind of an oath of ethics. And I was mixed about it because sometimes I think the people who stand in the front with their hands up to give the oath that, for everybody to see are the ones that you probably have to watch the most. So, you know, just we got to be careful. But it's a good story. I don't mean to rip on it too much. But
Yeah, I hate it.
Run to the hills, people.
All right, here we go. My final article from Utility Dive: NYPA to consider swapping gas peakers for batteries in novel deal with environmental justice groups. This is great. This is exactly what I've been seeing as the first good use for storage in the wholesale electricity markets, replace gas peakers. This is from Robert Walton. Here he's at Team Wet Dog, which is interesting, on Twitter. Published October 14th. So NYPA, in case you don't know, the New York Power Authority, they're basically the ESCO for New York's government buildings. So they own generation assets. After the deregulation in '99, the state kind of bought some generating assets from the utilities, and they used that to generate power for New York government buildings. So they have some control over generation, and they're a player in the electricity markets. So it's interesting to see that they decided to, well, it says that they'll consider utilizing battery storage and other advanced technologies to replace their 461 megawatts of gas peaking generation at 6 sites in New York City. But the article mainly said that the real interesting part here is it's a win for the environmental justice community because of the way NYPA worked with those groups. And that is an even bigger sign for the future that these large, you know, power controlling entities are actually going to start working with people who want to see change in the industry. So this is a really good development in both ways. So it's a double win here, which is good.
Yeah, love this story. Love exactly like you said. You know, we've been following very similar stories, or we've been following, if you think about it, over the last couple of months, regulatory battles between allowing energy storage to participate in the wholesale markets. So, you know, I feel like these types of stories that you're bringing here about energy storage being a catalyst for replacing gas peakers for NYPA is exactly what we need to see, practical implementation. And we're starting to get there, article by article, project by project. It creates a trend. It makes the cost of these types of investments to go down and be more realistic and more marketable. So this is a win-win type story. I liked it a lot. Very happy to see it.
Yeah. Okay. Eric, you're up next here.
Yes. Okay. So, you know, we've been talking about, again, I think one of our themes this week, whether we planned it or not, is really about practicality, right? We've been talking about ESG since we started the podcast several months ago, and environmental and social governance. We talked about the fact that there's a lot of entities out there trying to figure out how to tangibly measure what ESG investment is. So this article here out of OAOA.com, IBD, Investors Business Daily, unveils second annual list of the best ESG companies. This was posted on October 26th at 9 a.m. Through the AP. And Investors Business Daily, a great read that really helps investors navigate where they want to put their investment dollars by providing very transparent information. Recognize 50 companies with superior ESG ratings based upon a set of standards that they created that really give the potential investor transparency. This article here just talks very quickly about what their kind of base criteria was. They had to have AAA or AA ratings from MCSCI, ESG Research as of August 3rd. They had to have share price greater than $10. They all had to have a composite score of 80 or higher, putting them in the top 20% of all stocks. I like this a lot. And so if you scroll down, they break out some industries here: consumer products, semiconductors, healthcare, software, construction products and materials. And you see some names in here. First off, as a banker many years, I see some names that were clients of mine over the years, and I'm really proud to see that. I've seen some names that I've worked with in economic development. And you see some names here that you just don't think you would. Like, for example, Cummins, who's known for making big ICE engines for diesel trucks, and they're listed under manufacturing because Cummins is a company that always had very strong management and could look ahead to the future. And they're probably looking at their ESG spectrum in terms of how they manufacture, supply chain waste, hiring capabilities. They're that type of company. So I like this list a lot because we need to find tangible examples of where we can put our investment dollars. And here IBD is doing the task for us. So really want to give a shout out to IBD for compiling this list, their second one. And again, this is what we need to see, tangible examples of progress.
Yeah, really cool to see this list. I have to disclose I do own some of these stocks. Really cool to see, software companies I think are a little easier, right? They don't actually manufacture anything, so they don't have to burn anything in their building or, make anything hot like a steel company would. So those are easy. NVIDIA's on here, which incidentally is one of the big AI infrastructure companies. They build a lot of the GPUs that run AI for, say your Tesla that's fully automated now. We didn't have an article on that. We should go there. Maybe next week we'll talk about that.
They're going to merge with Facebook. AI is coming after us. It's a good story, right?
Yeah, Applied Materials is another interesting one. What they actually do make things, right? They make the equipment that makes the chips.
Correct.
Yeah. So iRobot actually makes things. So yeah, really cool.
I don't have shares. I don't have shares in iRobot, but I have one of their vacuum cleaners.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
look, it's a great list, and again, we want to provide to our listeners tangible lists of tangible opportunities. So really happy to see this story.
Yeah, those companies should be rewarded for doing a good job on sustainability, right?
Yep. This article actually I'm very proud of myself. I picked it before we knew we had Audrey as a guest this week, but it really ties into what we had talked about in the first segment of today's podcast. Again, Forbes, who really is stepping up in terms of covering green energy. We need publications like Forbes to do it, so hats off to them. This is from Jeff McMahon on Green Tech, senior contributor, from October 26th. Again, renewable energy surges even in fossil fuel friendly red states. This is one of my favorite stories because I said it the day after Trump got elected in kind of a Facebook piece about the election in 2016. A state like West Virginia, everybody worries about them because they've lost 50% of their coal jobs since 2012. So why isn't the federal government focusing on West Virginia for renewable energy supply chain jobs? And they said it here, West Virginia all of a sudden is becoming one of the hubs of storage in energy storage in the PJM. And I think I saw something like, maybe scroll up, it was like 40, they're 48th in solar growth, 24th in wind. So they have a long way to go. But in energy storage, they're 5th in the nation. And it's mainly because from their participation in the PJM, which we all talked about many times, 14 states. But recently they installed, AES installed 32 megawatt energy storage next to its 98 megawatt wind farm. This is moving the needle on having the wind energy integrated into the grid and having it sustainable and long lasting, because all of a sudden now you don't have to worry about peak wind in terms of time of day in which power generation from wind is taking place, because you've got a battery backup that's going to kind of smooth it out for the transmission. So I really like this. Wyoming and West Virginia are mentioned a couple times, very red states, but like the rest of America, we're embracing the fact that we need to be further along in green energy. So really good story.
Yeah, just fantastic stuff in this story. Half of all coal mining jobs have vanished since 2012. Solar and wind industries offer 2 of the 3 fastest growing occupations. It's just great. And again, I preserve my record of being nonpartisan in the show. It's a bipartisan issue.
It's in blue and red states, and we're making progress. Really cool to see here too. They have top states for wind and solar generation as a percentage of electricity consumption. You see the states in the middle of the country. Again, these are red states: Kansas, Iowa, North Dakota. These are Great Plains states. They're fantastic for wind resource. We've seen previously that wholesale electricity market participants are eager to get transmission lines in there to pull all this clean energy out, over to the East Coast. So yeah, it's all coming together. These are great numbers. 53% Kansas, 51% North Dakota. That's great. I mean, keep going because you can export it. And all of us on the East Coast looking for our net energy. We'll thank North Dakota for the power.
Hold on, I just want to go back to the point you said that you've been nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Do you know who our guest was today?
Yeah, but it's a bipartisan issue. We covered this.
It's a bipartisan issue.
It's a red state issue.
I'm just asking you to look in the mirror and face reality, my friend. It's okay. Look, we do have to be nonpartisan in some regard because if Donald Trump wins again, then the fight for clean energy has to continue, and it's going to continue at the state and local level.
That's right.
So, it's not going to be amalgamated on the federal level. So
that's right.
We have to be ready for any scenario.
Agreed.
Anyways, great story. So that's number 2. We're skipping number 3 and we're going right to number 4. This goes. I thought I saw this last week, and I thought this really segues very well from what you talked about on last week's podcast, which we had different examples in California of different battery technologies being used in energy storage. I really wanted to migrate a little bit away from EV and battery because we've been talking about it so much, but this story did captivate me. This is from Utility Dive. It's called To Batteries and Beyond. Lithium ion dominates utility storage. Can competing chemistries change that? Subtitle: The industry is growing increasingly comfortable with lithium ion, but its limitations open up a space for other technologies to compete in the storage mix. It's a bit of a long read. This is from October 15th from Kaya Ballerman. There's 32 utilities trying to be carbon free or achieve, quote, net zero by 2050. And so this is part of a 4-part series that talks about how they're going to get there. Love this story. I'm not going to go into long detail because we're running long here, but a really good story that really kind of captivates me about everything that it takes to grow energy storage. And it does talk about the technological limitations on lithium ion that may not get improved upon over the next couple of years. So going back to Lucas' story, we have to look at different ways for storage to take place, including hydro. I like the story a lot. If someone has time for a good deep dive story to read, I recommend this one.
Yeah, I did see this one last week with my whole storage kick. I couldn't do 5 articles last week. So it was good that you found it and brought it back into the fold because I did want to talk about it. Yeah, lithium ion maybe is not the best for grid services. It probably is the best for EVs. So it's not like it's worthless. It has a lot of value, but we're really looking at some of the other things. Here's Zinc's batteries, Zinc Air, probably some vanadium in here, flow batteries, and we talked about hydro storage too, and we didn't have the one about compressed air either. I had that on my list. You could have liquefied air. So there are lots of options for the grid because it doesn't have to charge quickly. It doesn't have to go in a car. It doesn't have to be lightweight. It can sit on a pad somewhere.
Right.
So, the options are much greater and probably a lot cheaper. So this is a good development.
It is. And we're going to be keeping an eye out. Glad we had a chance to talk to Audrey briefly about California. We're going to have a good California guest on in coming weeks to talk about their storage game plan so that, we can kind of tie it to what's happening here in the Northeast. But we had some good stories this week, and we had a great guest. And
yeah, we were super lucky to get her. I think she confirmed this morning. I got her on the calendar right away. We got her out because I know she's super busy, but we wanted to get her message out and hope our listeners heard her message and can help out.
Yeah, and no matter who you believe in, who you vote for on the local level and the national level, we're 7 days away from the election, probably one of the most important elections of our lifetime. We seem to keep saying that every 4 years, but I really feel it in my bones. people, please get out there and vote. I think back to my father and uncle who grew up on a farm in Czechoslovakia after World War II. Their village and their people didn't have the right to vote after World War II. So when he came to America, he would stand in freezing weather if he had to, so he could pull the lever and make his vote. And he's the type of generation that should be a role model for all of us. It's very encouraging what Audrey said. We're seeing younger people out there voting and registering. It's probably too late to register in most states, but if you can, please do. But get out there and vote, please.
Yep, and in a lot of countries, maybe through history, I don't know about now, but in a lot of countries, you can't own land and you can't participate in government. And these are things that people came to the U.S. for. This is one of the benefits of being here. It's almost like you could be your own king. That's what they used to say in the United States. So enjoy those benefits, right? Utilize those benefits, vote, and participate.
Absolutely. But, we're going to keep moving the needle on implementation of green energy and sustainability. That's our job. We do it with a couple of beers and ciders in hand, and that's the way to do it. But we want to thank everyone again. We've had great follow-up and feedback from listeners. We have emails every week coming from people. Lucas is coughing, and he put on the mute button, so we didn't have to hear that. But all right, Lucas, tell us where we can go to find out more about the Pirates of Clean Tech.
It's not the COVID. I already had the COVID. So you can find us on your favorite podcast site. We're on about a dozen podcast sites. It looks like Apple Podcasts is the most popular. So you can follow us there, and then it'll get posted there, and you'll get notifications when our new episodes post. We're also on YouTube if you want to go through the articles with us and see our beautiful faces. And you can go there, just search for Pirates of Clean Tech or click the link associated with this. And then you have to click the subscribe button. And if you want notifications to pop on your phone, like Eric and I do, you have to click that little alarm bell, and then you'll be the first to know, and you'll have the info before anybody else. So,
right. And in today's world, that information, that timing is precious. But it was great. We had a great week again this week. We've had some great guests, and we keep raising the bar. So with that, I'm Eric Planey.
I'm Lucas Finko.
And together we are the Pirate. Oh, wait. Nope. Disclaimer time. Views and opinions expressed by Lucas and myself are those of ourselves and not any organizations we are affiliated with. Now we can go with I'm Eric Planey.
I'm Lucas Finko.
And we are the Pirates of Clean Tech. Arr.
Excelsior.